Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. If you are new here, my name is Yvonne and you are on Ginger Chick Rehab, where I love to go thrift store shopping, garage sailing, estate sales, wherever I can find pre-loved secondhand finds. And not always just to decorate my own home with, but sometimes they need a little bit of loving. So here on the channel, I like to share with you how I make these items over. So in today's video, it is a thrift store makeover. Some of these items needed so much love to get them to be loved again. Not all makeovers have to be this extreme makeover. These are beautiful, just fun crocks. I love the detail of this one, the smallness of the other one, and we've got the classic of the IOD Marmalade Stamp Set. And I can't even tell you how many years I've had this. And I stamp on these little cream crocks like this, and they never last in my retail booth. So that is always awesome. So I love when I finally find a few that I can stamp some more on. So you would think, oh my gosh, it's a round object, it's crockery, that's not going to be very fun to have to stamp on. But let me show you my cheater way of packing tape. So I'm just going to do a couple things of packing tape to grab the stamp. Actually, I'm going to end up doing 3 because I want to make sure the whole thing is covered and I don't have like 2 little tails. So the stamp is stuck to the packing tape, and then I make little handles, but there's still some sticky. So when I get it all inked up, I have something to attach it to the crockery while I'm trying to transfer the ink onto the crockery. And so for the ink, I'm just going to be using IOD's permanent ink in black. Packing tape makes it so controllable to be able to attach it. Have my fingers there, and then I attach that little sticky, and then look, it doesn't move because I always like to take my scraping tool and kind of go down and make sure that I get all my wording. And if I didn't have that stuck, I would have a blurry mess. You notice on the first jar, it has a little bit of texture. Now this one is shiny. But once you let them sit, do not touch them. Let them sit 24 hours. It is on there. If you make a mistake, you have like moments, like minutes, if you can take just some rubbing alcohol, wipe it off, dry it, start fresh. You do have that time period if you know, kind of got a blurred mess also. But once it's on there, it's on there. So not only to resell, but to put in my own home decor, I love metal cloches. They have that primitive vibe. Somebody, for whatever reason, needed a white one, so they spray painted it white, but just on the top. So I'm going to see if I can take it back to that primitive vibe by making it rusty crusty. So we're going to go ahead and get these tags removed and see if we can get it to be rusty crusty. So I'm pretty sure that it is a spray paint, so we will see how my Dixie Bella iron paint is going to attach. Who knows? You just never know. And especially since I have a brand new container of it, means that it hasn't thickened up every time you open it up. You know, it gets thicker and thicker. So, and it's really hard just to get it just to not fill in those holes. Oh my gosh. So at first I was like, oh, I'm just going to go so ever so gingerly here and there, you know. On the metal band itself, the iron paint wasn't really sticking just on the spray paint. I didn't sand it or anything like that because I knew that was just going to make it gummy. It's that kind of a spray paint. So I just kept on kind of working, you know, you're kind of problem solve as you work along. I did decide on the banding where there's a full piece of metal, I was going to use the Dixie Belle's Prime Start. So it's for adhesion. It's supposed to help it adhere better. I just didn't want to put so much on this metal cloche that it just completely covers it and makes it not be see-through at all, because it's just really hard to just paint the individual meshes. So I thought, okay, we're just going to have to do that because I think it does need the primer to be able to attach to that spray paint. And then I'll go in with the heat gun and dry the Prime Start and then start putting some more of the iron paint on top of it. I probably thought this was going to be way easier than it actually was, but wait to the end, y'all. Wait to the end. So sometimes it kind of looks like a hot mess at first, and you're like, oh my gosh, look what have you done? But just you wait. Now I just need to get the iron paint on all over it. I finally decided to, like, okay, I'm just brushing it because dabbing it isn't doing it any better, and then brushing it from either side, kind of moving it around, kind of shaking it a little bit, getting the pockets of the paint from the little specks, and then whatever is going to be there is what's going to be there, because a rusty cloche that's been out in the weather, it probably isn't all the way see-through. For this one, all I'm doing is the green patina spray. I'm going in the inside, spraying it. I'm going to go in the outside, spray it. I'm probably going to let it sit for half hour or so and then go ahead and spray it once, since it'll kind of just roll down it, make sure that it didn't lose. But see, it turned out better than I thought it was going to turn. Sometimes you just never know. So now I'm getting it sealed in with some Weather Defense metal spray. Yep, it's not completely see-through, but I do love it. You just look at this poor little guy. Not only does he have a broken neck, but I think he has glue splashed on top of him. He's resin, he's not wood, but he's made to look like he is wood. So we're going to go ahead and fix that. It's already glued. I'm not going to try to break the glue to get it. It's not quite centered, but it's close enough. So we're going to go ahead and get that tag off the bottom first, because that's just my kind of thing, is I always remove tags. So what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to fill in the gap of where he's been repaired. So I'm just mixing up a little bit of Bondo. I like Bondo other than like spackling or wood putty, just because it's a little bit more hard, it's a little bit more permanent. And if I use a crackled like milk paint on it, I don't have to worry about the milk paint pulling it up. So it's a little bit of the hardener, the putty, and then you mix the two together, and then you need to start working with it because it starts to harden. So like in 10-15 minutes, it's ready that I can start sanding on it very gingerly, because I don't want to snap the neck off. I just have a 150 sandpaper, and see, all I was trying to really do is fill in that gap. And then after I got its neck sanded, I'm going to go and see if I can sand some of this glue. I think it's glue. I really don't even know what it is, but it's actually sanding off. So I'm thinking it's not glue. Who knows? But yeah, I don't want it to prevent anything that I'm doing to this little guy from sticking. Now that I've got him all sanded, I'm just going to give him a quick bath of Dawn dish soap and hot water. Just get any of that sanding dust, any Bondo residue that might be left behind. Just get him nice and clean, especially where that sticker was on the bottom. So since this is resin, there's nothing for this to really absorb, like my paint to absorb into. It's just going to be sitting on there. And then I don't want it to be like, oh, look at this is where the neck has been repaired. So I'm going to do a couple coats of the shellac, and that's going to act like a primer, and that's going to attract the paint that I want to, and it's also going to even out the porosity of where the repair on the neck was. There's just something about that classic white swan, even though
the Sweet Pickins, they need to have a swan color. I do so many swans. Anyway, flour sack is always my go-to white color anyway. So I'm mixing up flour sack, milk paint, because I'm going for a crackling, chippy effect. I sprayed it with shellac. I'm hoping I don't get too much chippiness, but I am looking for some cracking and some crazing with this paint job. So milk paint is equal parts powder to equal parts water. You stir it for 2 minutes. You set it off the side and let it thicken up, and then you can start to work with it. I don't know, just adding that white just on the top of that kind of dingy color. I know the shellac kind of makes it a little bit yellow, but this poor little swan was a little bit dingy. A lot of times I'll do a little dot of Vaseline around glass eyes like this, but they're so small that sometimes I get more than just the eye and I get the surrounding area. So I'm just going to work very gingerly with the tip of this brush. I ended up doing a total of 2 coats. It's gorgeous. The crackling is gorgeous. Yes, I did the bottom as you saw. Oh my gosh, I'm not going to add any wax. I'm just going to go ahead and seal this in with some Weather Defense clear coat because I'm afraid I'm going to chip any of the paint off. So now I want to see if I can transform this outdated sweet little rocking horse into something a little bit more classic. And I hope for the $7.29 price that it broke at the store, that they weren't selling it at that price. You never know. Anyway, I'm never worried about something being broken because I know I can fix it. And then I am going to change out that hanging system. But we'll go ahead and remove this random piece of Scotch tape that's on the back of it, and then we'll just pop this hanger off. To glue this together, I'm going to be using 2 types of glue just because it's a weird angle to be working on, like a clamp or anything. So I'm using Titebond's Quick and Thick, which usually takes forever to come out of the tube. And of course, today it was like, oh, I'm coming right out. So I'm going to do a little dab of that. And then I'm going to take some Staalbond thick glue, which has a dryer that accelerates it, that it dries in 15 seconds. So I'm just going to spread this glue around. I'm going to open it back up. I'm going to put some of the Staalbond in there. And then I'm going to spray it with that. That way it's acting as a clamp while the Quick and Thick is setting up. And now that my glue has sat up, it is dry. I like the Quick and Thick Titebond because with an hour I can start working on my project. So I'm just going to go ahead and sand off most of the hand painted that's on here just to give it a new look. And I want my milk paint to have a crackling, crazing effect, like it's an old-timey paint. That's the whole point of using milk paint. So I need to seal my wood in so it's not just absorbing the paint in. So I'm going to go ahead and use a couple coats of shellac to achieve this. So my hope is the milk paint will kind of give it that classic crackle look, a little bit fresher white look. So I am going to mix up a couple other colors, black and red wagon, to do the saddle and to do some other little features of this rocking horse. And it's going to take a couple coats to get it to cover, but there's just something about that white that just makes it just a little bit cleaner. So I'm not sure if I'm the best at freehand, but we'll see. I might have to go back to the original picture to kind of like, hey, how did they have that harness on there? So I know I want to do an eyeball. I want to do like some kind of something on the face. So we'll see how it turns out. Luckily, I'll probably distress it. So if it's not perfect, it'll just be that perfectly imperfect distressed. Now that I have it distressed the way that I want it, it's nice and brightened. All I'm going to do is I need to seal my milk paint in with something, and I'm just sealing it in with some clear wax. Oh my goodness. So I got to be careful here because, you know, when you've done red, it kind of comes off on your waxing cloth, but I'll be careful. You know, somebody just recently asked me, what am I using for waxing cloths? I actually just bought one of those big shop tubs that, you know, like the box at Menards, that there's what, 1,000 in a box or something. I don't remember how many. And they're lint free, and they have been holding up to wax, and then I can just throw them away. Perfect. I used to use drop cloth that I had to cut up, but these have been working out perfectly. So now I just want this to hang a little bit differently, so I'm going to be using these eyelet hooks, screw them in from the top, and then do some wire in between the two to balance it out. So I didn't have any black eyelets, and the wire that I had was black wire I had was a little too thick, so we're going to go ahead and just stick with this little bit newer of a chrome. It's a newer paint job anyway. Now I have this metal box, it might have been a bread box, I don't know. It's got the vent on the back, though it is a little bit worse for wear in the inside, so I probably won't make it so, I mean, you could probably still salvage it if you sealed that in, but I'm going to do something else with it. First of all, though, this isn't its original paint job. We're going to go ahead and start sanding off these sponged on stars and the brush strokes and the texture paint that's going on here. I thought at first, I'm like, oh yeah, I'll just hand sand it. Like, oh no, that'll take days. So we're going to go ahead and power sand it as much as we can first. So yes, not only does it have the burgundy paint and what the other original paint is underneath, it has the brush strokes, and there's some like a stain to darken it, and then there's the sponged on stars that if you don't get those flat, you're definitely going to see that detail. And you can tell as I'm rounding the corners, it's just not in good shape. It's not solid, it's got a lot of dings and dents in it, so it's perfect for what I want to do with this. I think I got it as sanded as I possibly could, doing some hand sanding around the edges and whatnot, but we are going to go ahead and get this wiped out inside and out with some Dawn dish soap and some hot water. And now I'm going to go in with some Rust-Oleum enamel paint in the flat black and then cover up that burgundy and those stars. Just give it a nice primer coat. So my theme for this is kind of outdoorsy. So we're going to go with the Birdie Color by Sweet Pickins, going for that crackling crazy, not chippy. I don't want it to chip off. That's why we sanded it and we primed it with that enamel paint to give it a good base for the milk paint to stick onto. So Birdie is a wonderful blue color, kind of like that robin's egg blue. It already has some beautiful crackling and crazing going on. Never worry, even with the second coat, this is ended up going to take 3 coats because it's such a light color and it has a dark base, and I rather put just minimal paint on to cover than have to deal with drips and runs. But oh my goodness, it's so much better with this color. Made all the prep well worth it because I got crackling and crazy, not chippiness. I didn't want it to chip off because, you know, look at all those dents in this poor metal box. So we're going to go ahead and seal this all in with some Weather Defense metal clear coat. Before I get ahead of myself and forget to remove the painter's tape that I put in the inside to prevent drips from going in the inside of this box, I need to go ahead and take my poking tool and get any of those little paint dots out of this vintage. I thought, since this metal box is pretty much airtight, it's got the vintage in the back, it has some beautiful fun outdoor color. Whispering willows would be perfect to add a little bit of floral to make this like a place to hold your bulbs and your seeds. So I'm just doing a little bit of fun transfer, and I probably cut my transfer a little bit too short. I'll go back in and add a little bit more to it. I didn't want it to be overpowering at first, but oh, look at the pop of that. This one is more of a watercolor type of transfer. Oh, IOD always outdoes themselves on any transfer that they do. Have that beautiful floral on there with some berries. We're going to add a little bit of wordage, just some bulbs and seeds using one of the Funky Junks stencils. You don't always have to use the whole stencil. It's just nice to use pieces and parts to get the wordage that you want. For my stencil color, since I still have some of the lantern milk paint left over, I'm just going to go ahead and dip my makeup sponge from the Dollar Tree store into that. Get a lot of that paint off on a plate, and then yeah, just use that color. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. Need to seal my transfer in, and I also need to seal my lantern milk paint in. I'm just going to spray it with another coat of Weather Defense Metal Spray.
So thank you so much for watching today's video, and which of the items I made over were your favorite? Something as simple as stamping on a crock. And my gosh, those marmalade crocks by IOD are classic. So if you don't have those in your arsenal and you run across crocks, yeah, I have good turnover for those. So, and as always, you know, there's the tin boxes. You always kind of see tin bread boxes, and it was a little bit too dirty to probably just store food into, so why not make it for planting season and saving that poor little swan's neck. I don't know what it is about swans and me always finding swans. Somehow I just do, and I'm not sure if I made the rusty crusty wire cloche better than the white or not, but I do love it rusty crusty because I love most things rusty crusty. So thanks again for watching today's video, and as always, if you're part of our YouTube family, thank you so much. And if you're new and you're checking out this channel for the first time and you liked what you saw, please hit that subscription button along with the notification bell so you know when we've uploaded a new video. And we will see you next time, guys, and you can see what I'm up to. Bye!